Have you ever wondered, since the United States owns the machine that prints the dollars, why don't they just print trillions overnight and make every citizen a millionaire? Poverty solved, debt gone, everyone is rich. To understand why that fails, we have to look at what money actually is. For thousands of years, we used a barter system, which eventually transitioned to gold. Gold had value because finding it required intensive physical labor and finite resources. Today's dollar is different. It is what we call fiat money. This piece of paper is not backed by gold or any other physical commodity. On its own, it has zero intrinsic value. Its worth is derived from a mutual promise. When you hand a cashier $10, you are trading on the trust that society will honor that paper and give you $10 worth of goods or services in return. Money isn't the wealth itself. It is a measuring stick for stored energy and human trust. Imagine a tiny economy with exactly 10 apples and 10 people, each holding a $1 bill. Based on supply and demand, one apple costs exactly $1. Now suppose the government gives everyone $9 extra. Everyone now holds $10 and feels significantly wealthier. But the number of apples on the table hasn't changed. We didn't create more food, we only created more paper. Because more money is now chasing the same number of apples, the price of an apple rises to $10 to compensate. This is the basic mechanic of inflation. We can see this play out in history. During its hyperinflation crisis, the government of Zimbabwe issued $50 and $100 trillion notes. Despite the massive numbers on the paper, the money was effectively worthless. We see the same result in Venezuela. Basic goods like a bowl of rice require stacks of currency weighing more than the food itself. Printing money doesn't create wealth. It dilutes the value of the dollars citizens already worked for. However, there is a massive contradiction to this logic. In 2020, the United States created trillions of new dollars out of thin air. They didn't use a physical press. Instead, the Federal Reserve typed numbers into a computer and injected those funds directly into commercial bank accounts. Based on the economic patterns we just established, this should have sent the price of bread to $50,000. So why didn't the US dollar collapse? When the US government spends more than it collects in taxes, it issues bonds, essentially formalized IOUs sold to investors in other nations. If there aren't enough buyers for these bonds, the Federal Reserve creates new digital money and buys the debt itself. This creates a loop of borrowing and printing that has driven the US national debt into the tens of trillions. For any other nation, this level of debt would lead to a currency crisis. But the US operates under a different set of global conditions. In the 1970s, a strategic deal was struck that changed the role of the dollar. It is a system often called the petrodollar. The mandate was simple. If any country wants to buy oil on the global market, they must pay for it exclusively in US dollars. Because oil is a necessity, nations from Japan to Pakistan must constantly acquire and hoard US dollars just to keep their economies running. This creates a constant global demand for the dollar that exists far beyond America's borders. When the US prints trillions of new dollars, that inflation doesn't stay trapped inside the country. It flows outward, absorbed by the rest of the world because they need those dollars for energy. America effectively exports its inflation. The petrodollar system acts as a shield, allowing the US to print money while global markets absorb the resulting loss in value. But a money printer cannot fix an economy. It can only delay the consequences of a deficit. Real wealth comes from creating actual value. It requires building businesses, advancing technology, and growing 100 apples instead of just 10. A healthy government must maintain a balance, only adding new money to the system as the actual output of goods and services grows to match it. The global economy is built on trust and human labor. The next time someone suggests solving poverty by just printing more money, you'll know why that's a trap and who ultimately pays the price.